r/AskReddit by Redmond Dts. What's the most unexpected way someone you know became wealthy? Friend trademarked a name and bought a domain for their small business. A major sneaker company developed a shoe with the same name and bought all his IP for a substantial sum. He didn't disclose exact amount. My friend took some of that money and invested in his brother-in-law's business. It was some kind of management software for industrial marine commerce. My friend made millions. He is an average guy, not particularly ambitious or intelligent or business savvy. Just a good guy with good luck. Quiet chap I worked with, unassuming, and never talked much, except about football and his team. I was having a coffee with him, and he said he had a letter from a solicitor, and was going to see them later. A distant relative had died, and as he was the only living relative, he was inheriting their estate. Sometime later he discovered that he had inherited 5,000 acres and a building site development, which already had 6 houses nearly complete, with another 6 being built. The estate was worth millions, and continues to deliver. He bought me a beer. I worked at Microsoft on this project, called the HoloLens. It was a fun project, but after 10 years, the price was still too high, and the headset was still too bulky, and Microsoft wanted to concede the consumer hardware market to Apple and others, so it all got cancelled. My job was to make games for the HoloLens in a tiny studio within Microsoft called LXP. When the studio was dissolved, the lead of the studio left to create a startup, and invited me to join. "What's the project?" I asked. "I don't know yet," he said. "We'll figure it out together." 7 other guys said yes to this. They had savings or wives that made money anyway. I didn't have that. I said no. They called the company Against Gravity, since the HoloLens prototype was called Grave, which I thought was funny. A year later, I saw they were making a VR chat app that they were just giving away for free. I felt good about my decision to pass on bring the 8th member of the studio. The art looked like dev placeholder art. A few years after that, my old PM Nick's voice was coming through my radio on the way to work. He was the guest on NPR's Planet Money. He was there to talk about how the little startup was now worth over $3 billion. Apparently, they had put the VR app, Rec Room, on mobile, and it was considered a Roblox competitor. So they did indeed figure it out together. Had a distant family member who worked at a gas station cafe, had an old grumpy man who used to come in and have his coffee every day, and nobody liked him. She went out of her way to be friendly and ask him how his day was, would sit and chat with him when it wasn't busy. They lived rurally, so sometimes there was nobody coming in for a long time. One day he passed, and she learned she was to inherit his money, which was hundreds of thousands of dollars. He had no family and had appreciated her kindness, so he left her everything. She used the money to build a house and purchase a construction company. My mom's friend's daughter became a millionaire overnight in a weird way. The girl's dad walked out on her family when she was in kindergarten. She did not have a relationship with him, and he didn't pay child support or visit or any of what a father should do. He just left, and the mom really had to struggle to make ends meet for years. When the girl was finishing high school, the dad got hit and killed by a FedEx truck, and she was left with $1 million settlement. One of their old songs that they made more than a decade ago suddenly became popular on TikTok. Went from living on the bare minimum with roommates to start having to ask around for how to invest money. The guy who invented smart food popcorn lives in my town, and we have some mutual friends. The unexpected part of his story is that popcorn wasn't what he was originally marketing. He had come up with an idea for a resealable chip bag. When he was pitching his product to investors, he made some popcorn to put in the bags to show how the bags worked. The company hated the bag concept. Why would they want to prevent chips from going stale? That would cut into the sales of more chips. But they loved his popcorn. A stoner's blend of popcorn and parmesan cheese. PepsiCo now owns Smart Food, and he's worth millions. A quiet co-worker bought Bitcoin as a joke in college, and cashed out years later for 6 figures. I knew a kid in high school that was in on the beer can collecting trend. He entered an abandoned house, and found 10 of the rarest cans in the world. There were only like 5 of this brand in the entire nation, so he had to sell them slowly so as not to tank the value. I believe he made around $800,000 in 1978 at the age of 16. Heard from other co-workers that a former co-worker laid off around a year prior had won first place in a World Series of Poker event in Las Vegas with $1,500 buy-in, about 1,300 participants, and $315,000 first place prize. Not crazy money, and not a main event or anything, but very impressive nonetheless. I look him up from time to time on the World Series of Poker website, and it looks like he goes to Vegas every few months to compete in several events, placing well enough to probably pay for his trips and take home a few grand, but not quit his job. Nothing near as impressive as that first win. I know a dude who won 60 grand in the lottery. Not crazy money by any means, but still, he lucked out big time. Teaches the 2nd grade, so 60 grand is a lot. Plus, he's an awesome dude, I'm happy for him. My ex's mom and stepdad started taking care of this elderly couple on their street, taking them meals, doing things around the house, taking them to doctor's appointments, etc. Eventually, the couple passed away. My ex's mom and stepdad got a call from an attorney a little while after, letting them know that the couple had left everything to them. They didn't think much of it because they were poor and lived in a small house in a poor neighborhood, just as the elderly couple did. The elderly couple didn't have anything nice, old beat up cars, small house, didn't go on any expensive vacations or anything. They lived basically right above poverty level. Then the lawyer told them the couple had left them tens of millions of dollars. Don't know the exact sum, but that's what they told us, tens of millions. They live a very different life now. Not wealthy, but a few years ago, Ring Doorbell had a contest of who could film the best Halloween video on their in-camera. My friend and her husband spent all weekend filming one, just for fun, and submitted it. They ended up winning the whole national contest and $100,000 of prize money. Couldn't have happened to a better couple either. They're 2 of the nicest people you'll ever meet. Neither works in a terribly high-paying field, so the money allowed them to buy a nice, modest house in a good neighborhood near downtown. We were all very happy for them. A neighbor got distributorship for an unknown brand that produces tools or parts for small or big industries. Very niche area. He had barely any sales as we are not in an industrialized region, just some small local workshops were all his customer base. Then a big ass copper mine started operating nearby and sourced crazy amount of tools and parts from that brand. I learned that sometimes it's just luck, but you still need to take a shot to Lady Luck come find you. My cousin was the great-grandson of a man who started a funeral service company in a medium-sized coastal city. His grandfather got dementia, and his father died unexpectedly in his 50s. My cousin was only 27. He was sort of a pothead, and didn't demonstrate the business acumen to take over the company, so the grandma had to buy him out. His share came out to $4 million. My best friend from high school grew up poor as dirt. When his brother got married, he had a hookup with a bridesmaid that he met at the wedding that turned into a long distance relationship. Turned out he had knocked her up the night of the wedding. Her family was extremely traditional, so she wanted to get married. He agreed, mostly because he wanted to be near his child. She moved to where we live, and they got married. Her father owns a massive company in the Northeast. After a year or so, he missed his daughter enough to offer to buy them a house, pay all their moving expenses, and give my friend a job with his company. For the last 20 years, my friend has had a job where he does pretty much jack shit, gets paid a ton, and has no debt at all. They have 2 sons now and actually have a very happy marriage. Heard of a dude that freaking tackled an active shooter in Australia, got $2.5 million from a GoFundMe. Well earned, mate. Kid that lived down the street from me growing up tried to get me to invest in buying domain names for established businesses that hadn't gotten on the internet train yet with our paper delivery money, mid-90s. I declined because I wanted to spend my money on dumb shit. I don't know how much he made from those, but it was significant enough to sequentially create several startups in web hosting and eventually cloud storage. Each company he started he sold for more and more money. Now he is worth over $300 million per Google search. A guy at my church invested $30,000 in crypto and turned it into $3 million. He retired after that. He was around 45 years old and already had money saved. As newlyweds, we moved into a home, and our neighbor was an old lady, single, no siblings or relatives, and cranky as hell. Quiet neighborhood, nothing fancy, very blue collar area. She took a liking to us, we did little errands for her over the years, and eventually cared for her as she got very old and ill. Fast forward a few years later, she passes away and leaves us almost everything, well into 6 figures, changed our lives. She sued the city because she was accidentally sewed into the pants of the big Charlie Brown at the Thanksgiving Day parade. Dude I know had a small printing business. COVID hit and the government threw millions at sign printing. He landed one of the contracts. Silly time that was. He's playing golf every day now. Guy I knew in college got hit by a truck as a child. He was pretty messed up, but eventually made a full recovery. He never said exactly how much he was awarded from the settlement, but he said it was enough that he would never have to work a day in his life. He said he was just going to college for fun. That's all, folks. Thank you for watching. If you like videos like this one, why not like and subscribe for more? Have a nice evening.